Hey guys, so today is Braid Girls, and I decided instead of asking a guest on, I would instead kind of sit and have a chit chat with you guys and talk about what I think of bad moms. And first off, what is a bad mom? And the reason I even use that phraseology is that everybody out there is going to be like, oh, I wonder if she's talking about me. I wonder if she's talking about something that I do. And the reason for that is that we all think that we're bad moms. We all think that we have fallen short of this great calling that belongs to us when that baby is first put into your arms, and even before that baby's put into your arms, when you're carrying a child. You really have these ambitions and these dreams and these things that you want to gift to this child and that you want this child to become, and these things that you want to be and that you want to become. And we all fall short of those little dreams. And so the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I feel like I've hit kind of a cross in the road as far as my own motherhood goes. And that is that I have these absolutely adorable little girls, and silly one. I wake up in the night in a cold sweat sometimes, thinking about if something ever happened to them, but also thinking about the way that I mothered as a young mother, thinking about some of the ways that I currently mother, and wishing that it wasn't so. Wishing that I had taken that minute, wishing I had taken that time to put the child on my lap and tell them how much I care about them, and tell them that, and not tell them, but to show them just how important they are to me. And we all have those moments. And so I made a list of things that I really care about that are really how I feel about mothering right now. First off, I listened to a video by Living on a Dime, and I know I already talked about it in my live show. And in fact, I want to make sure that I turn on the chat here, just so you guys can chime in. Make sure to chime in. I'm on Google Plus, and so any questions that you guys have, if you want to come over to Google Plus, or if you have a thought about what I'm talking about today. And first off, if I can move my spinning wheel so that my ball is not getting stuck on it. This live broadcast that Living on a Dime did talked about how fear is one of the big reasons why people are in debt. But I don't think that fear is only to blame for people being in debt. I think fear is also responsible for moms who yell at their kids, or moms that give more spanks than are appropriate, or moms that cry at night and have depression because they feel like they're not up to par. And so I would highly recommend that you go and watch that video. That is the #1 reason why people get into debt. It's on Living on a Dime is the channel. And I highly recommend it, because I have a scripture that I want to share with you, because it just really speaks to me. Let's see if I can get it to come up. It's 1 John 4:18, and I like the King James Version. It says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love." And for instance, what are some things that a mom could be afraid of that would cause her to lash out or cause her to feel inadequate? First off, I would say public opinion. I got a little girl here picking her nose. And
no, I'm not picking my nose.
You know, sometimes things like that are just completely childish, we think of it as, oh my goodness, she is such a bad mom. She's letting her daughter pick her nose in public. Or, oh my gosh, that child has ice cream all over their face, their hair in public. And so it's not necessarily that we as mothers care that the child is doing these uncouth things or has a dirty face or unkempt hair. It's that we are worried about what other mothers will think of us. And I look back on my experience as a mother, and I realize just how much of my time and how many of my emotional outbursts were just 100% geared out of fear. For one thing, you love your child. You don't want him to get hurt. So you want to teach him things that will help them to stay safe. Don't walk into the street. Be careful when you're on your bike. And I think that there's value in teaching our children to be safe. There's value in teaching our kids skills. And at the same time, if we're doing it out of fear, then it means that we're quite possibly, if our kids aren't interested in it, or if they really don't understand what we're saying or why we're saying it, we have a tendency to shush them, just obey, just obey. And I find that constantly, that maybe my kids really don't understand what I'm asking, or what I'm asking of them is too big for their age or too big for their mental capacity. And instead of listening to that and saying, okay, I need to cut back and figure out another way for them to help or another way to teach them this, instead I just plow through, because the real reason I want to teach it to them is out of my own fear. And so one of the reasons that this is so important to me is that when I started to make YouTube videos, I was putting everything in. If I was snappy with my kids, I put it in. If I was impatient with my kids, I put it in, because I didn't want other moms to feel bad about themselves and to think that I was a perfect mom. And what happened was I had a huge amount of backlash and people telling me what a terrible mom I was and how mean I was to my kids. And I felt like the message of what I was trying to teach my audience was being lost in the fact that everyone was being distracted by this fact that I was YouTubing and parenting at the same time. I was the ultimate multitasker. Let's make a YouTube video, but let's teach a child how to knit. Or let's make a YouTube video. I'll hand it to my daughter. She'll have her camera over here, and I'll correct her and tell her, please bring your camera over here. And I'll get people just not noticing that I'm trying to feed quail, but instead noticing that I snapped at my kids. But I felt really strongly about leaving that in, again, so that other mothers would see the real life. But after I had some of that really negative feedback, I stopped putting it in. I just said, fine, I'm going to take it all out. Every time that I discipline my kids on camera, I will just cut it out. But that's not real life. And it's really hard, because if people look up to you and you're not telling the whole story, then they're judging themselves against a crooked line. You know, you're the crooked line, and they're judging themselves against it because you're presenting yourself as a straight line. And so what it's really come down to for me is that one, what, honey? Do you want to go play? You just want to make funny faces at the camera? Can you go out and feed the quail for me? Thank you. Okay. What do I need you to do?
Is it? I'd rather stay here.
No, the bottom box. I mean, you know, it's the same quail food as always. Bottom box, just half a scoop, because they won't eat that much.
Well, what's in the green box in the greenhouse?
What green box?
The green feeder.
That's dirt.
Mm.
They won't eat dirt very well. And for instance, when we started, another thing that happened was that I would watch these videos that I made of my kids and of our life, and I would look at myself and be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I talk to my kids that way all the time. I yell so much. I get impatient so much. I don't like this about myself. And I tried really, really hard to change. And it was a blessing in that at least it made me more aware of how much I yelled and how much I pushed away their little needs and everything. And I felt like I had a greater purpose. I felt like what it was I was doing was worth the fact that I wasn't spending as much time with my kids. I wanted to show people how to do this permaculture thing and how to have a little farm and how to cook from scratch. These things were the most important thing I could be teaching, you know, anybody. And so it was okay that I was outside too much and that I was impatient with my children. It would just had to be okay. But it's not, because my blessing of teaching to other people could never compensate for unkindness and to my children, and anxiety on my part that I was treating my children this way because I was overworked. And so my challenge to you guys would be to look at your own lives and see where you are fear driven. Where are you fear driven? Where do you, in your heart of hearts, believe your priorities are? And can you look around and see places where you're running out of time, where working on a project is not good enough because the things that you care about the most are falling out of your life? And so if everybody has wondered why very abruptly I stopped making as many videos, and why so many we're doing 2 live videos and only 1 edited video, is that I looked around and I said, in order to make this money that I feel my family needs, because I was afraid because my husband wasn't working and I didn't know if he'd be able to. And so the fear kicked in so hard. And I started being mean, not just to my kids and over demanding of my kids, but of my husband too. And he was, regardless of what was or wasn't getting done, my approach to the need for these things to get done, my ability to communicate, was just completely cut off by my anxiety and my fear. And when I saw this, I'm like, how much of my past life has been focused on fear, and how many of the regrets that I have as a wife and a mother are a result of fear? And I said, well, this fear that I have right now that we won't make it because I need to be able to work to bring in food for the family. How much of this is fear-based and thus inappropriate? If I can't work at a certain level without being afraid and having anxiety and being mean, I can't work at that level. And so even though I have all those YouTube Tip Tuesdays that I made that say, if you want to make a living off YouTube, this is how you did it, I was right. I'm not going back on that at all. Those tips about making daily videos, about getting on all these different platforms, and about having a digital product and all these other things, they're real. That really is how you do it if you want to do it. But what happened for me was that I stepped back at it and I said, I'm becoming a robot. I'm becoming a robot, and my kids are getting to an age where they won't be able to forgive me. And my marriage is such that it's going to get to a point where not only am I not a good wife, but I'm just not a good person, the way that things are happening right now. And one of my biggest fears is I wake up a lot in the night afraid of all these videos that I've made where I snap at my kids. And if all of them came out and the true picture of who I am showed, it would be not, I guess, the fear of what other people would think, but maybe I would just have to look myself in the face and say, this is really who I am. And the only way that I can think to not be that way is to repent by extracting fear from my life. That there are worse things than not being able to pay your mortgage. There are worse things than I think as long as you have food and shelter over your heads, isn't it more important to live that way in love? I mean, isn't there another Proverbs talking about that living with an angry woman, it's better to live in a stall with a cow than it is to live in a beautiful home with an angry woman? And it's not that it's just my family that suffers when I'm like that, or when anyone's like that. And so if for the sake of keeping our home, I'm sacrificing my soul and my relationship with my family, that's a pretty big price for a building that isn't going to remember me in 20 years. But she would. And so what did we do yesterday that was super fun?
We went on we went in the dry beds.
And once again, Mom yelled a lot. At
That's
Paige.
because Paige was going in the road too much.
I yelled at, I see that my backup cue is to yell, because I don't know if I believe that if I yell, they'll pay attention, or in the past, when I yell, they pay more attention. But I see that when I get afraid, I yell. And Paige was scaring me a little bit with traffic. We have a lot of traffic on this road, and there's no median. There's nowhere to get off the road. And she was on it. She really, really wanted to go biking, and I wanted to go biking with her. And so we put her on my bike and lowered the seat as much as we could. And I was trying to teach her to go to the front of the bike instead of falling off the bike. And so for me, it was a scary situation. And so even though I was trying so hard to go and do something that was fun, I saw that once again, I was reverting to yelling. And so I think I need to look at it and maybe have some compassion on myself. And we as moms and dads need to have compassion on ourselves. And if there's a situation where we're really not comfortable being with our kids because we're worried, or for me, if I feel like a situation is dangerous, but they really want to do it, maybe, the answer for the biking is to take her to practice somewhere where if she does fall off the bike, she wouldn't be falling into traffic. And then, I don't know, for any of you out there who have never had money and have always been poor, that kind of thing is hard because, okay, it's going to take fuel for me to get that bike onto that.
It's okay if today we ride at the green belt.
Yeah.
The green belt, not to drive it, but it's green belt.
Probably.
Top's Park would be good, or biking park.
It would be fun, wouldn't it?
Have you ever been to the biking park? The biking is really fun.
Are you talking to them or me?
Both.
Yes, I have.
It's really fun.
It is really
fun.
Go
riding on it.
And so I see that because my personality is such that when I'm under stress and when I'm scared, I snap. Is maybe we can practice teaching the kids things in a situation that's really safe, but a lot of times those safe places, it takes money to get there, which then stresses me out further. And so
we do it at the church. Then take money there.
Yeah, that's true. And so, for instance, Paige needs a new bike because she's using my bike because her bike was too small.
My bike, and guess what? My bike had popped tires. That was the most reason, though.
Yeah. And so we need to get new bikes for the girls so that when they're riding their bikes, they're not wobbly, they're not too big for them, they're not so small that it's just not safe for them to be riding them. And that costs money. And so then that other side of the mama brain comes in. She's like, but we can't afford it. We can't afford to be making all these trips into Idaho Falls.
But Paige and I can't afford it.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
They can afford it, but we can't afford it.
And so being a mom is so complicated. When you first have new babies, you're not sleeping at night. And at least when I was a new mom, I was in school and I was also working part-time. So I was in school full-time, I was working part-time, and I had new babies. And so I was never getting enough sleep. John couldn't be up with the girls the night because he had work the next day and needed to have his sleep. And I felt like the world was coming down on me. And on top of that, I felt like maybe the world was going to end, and how was I going to feed my kids? And so all the different avenues that I had fear coming at me were monstrous. And so I had these little teeny tiny babies that I wasn't enjoying because I had so much on my plate, and I didn't know how to not have those things on my plate. I was so close to my degree. I so wanted to be done and have that degree and be done with that. And I so wanted to have a big garden and take care of my family and know that we were safe. And I needed the laundry done and everything else. And I didn't want to be judged by other moms that I was a good or a bad mom because my house was clean or dirty. And so I guess the thing is, and I'll stop here because I don't think that it needs to be a long conversation this time, is all of you think that I have these great kids, and I do have these great kids. And one thing that is frustrating to me is a lot of times if I do catch me being cranky on camera, what I don't catch on camera is when my kids are being disobedient or naughty or deliberately lying. All these things I don't catch them on camera, but I do catch myself on camera when I'm snapping about it after I've asked something for the 16th time. And so it does show an imbalanced view of who I really am as a mom, because I only catch myself snapping. You don't see on the camera the times when the kids are misbehaving or when John is in a bad mood. And so sometimes it seems like, sometimes I wonder how much of how bad I feel about myself on some of these videos is about, go get your hair brushed and braided again, okay? Or go brush your hair and bring it down and I'll braid it. How much of what I see is just because I'm the only one on camera that actually is snapping. But I know that I'm not willing to stay in the status quo right now. If I feel that much fear as a mother, and if I feel that much fear as just a human being on earth, there's something wrong there, because we're not supposed to live in fear, and we're not supposed to live in a situation where we feel like we have to be in control of everything. And to tell you how serious I am about it, I've considered actually going on medication for depression, because I see how sad I am at times about not being able to get everything done that I feel like I need to as a mom. I need to get laundry done. I need to get the girls' hair braided. I need to get my cooked from scratch breakfast on. I need to go milk the goats. I need to put my makeup on so I can take my videos. I need to be chipper and happy when my husband gets home from work. And all of these things, I don't know if there are some of them that can be eliminated so that I don't feel like a crazy person. But I have actually seriously thought about going on antidepressants, because, you know, they say the indicator that you're depressed is that you don't enjoy the things that you used to enjoy doing. And I don't like homesteading anymore. And I don't know if that is the stress of what's happened with John and me needing to pick up the slack in money that comes in, or if it's just because I'm tired. I don't know what all of that comes to, but you know, and who was it? Somebody said that my old videos used to be a lot more chipper and a lot happier, and I was showing all the animal stuff, and it was obvious I was excited, and maybe it's obvious that I'm not now. But I think we all hit those points in life, and I really think they have so much to do with fear. You have your midlife crisis. It's because you're afraid of getting old. You know, you what are some other things? You spend more money than you have because you're afraid that your neighbors will judge you if you don't have X, Y, and Z. You pull your kids out of public school because you're afraid they'll get into drugs. You put your kids into public school because you're afraid they won't be socialized. And I think fear is one of the greatest tools that Satan has to control us. And it's one of the reasons why, as we're potentially thinking of living in the RV, I'm really excited. I'm really hoping that it's not me as a person who is stuck in this cycle of anger and frustration and fear. And instead, I hope that it's just that I'm a little bit overworked right now, and that if I had less that was going on and more FaceTime with the kids, where we weren't bouncing around in this big house trying to keep things clean, trying to keep chores up, that things will change and be something I can be proud of as a mom. I'm proud of my kids. I'm 100% proud of my kids, but I'm not necessarily as proud of my mothering skills at times. And I'm sorry that the channel is rough lately that way. I feel like I talk about this kind of thing a lot, but I don't have all the answers, and I don't have all the skills that I wish I had, and I feel like I need to let go of some of my dreams that are fear-based, and move on to some dreams that are just happy. So I hope this helps some of you, and maybe it didn't, but I'm trying really hard to be honest. And one of the reasons I take fewer videos and make fewer videos is that I don't carry a phone in my pocket anymore. I don't carry a camera with me anymore all the time, and I try really hard instead to focus on the moment. And we make less money on our channel because of it. Yep. And when I was really stressed out, we were making lots of money on the Etsy store, plenty to live on. It came down to the point where I was doing everything except family. And so for those of you who I was giving advice about digital products and how to make money on Etsy, I wasn't lying. It really did work. But the minute that I dropped that ball and stopped pushing it so hard, the money dried up. And it's okay. That's okay. Anyway, I don't know what's coming next, but I do know that I'm ready to stop being afraid, whether it be about prepping or about food security or other things. The way that I investigate them now, I want them to be curiosity based and with lots of energy, and doing it in a way that my kids can participate without constant censure because they're not doing it right, or because I'm too tired and I shouldn't be doing it myself, instead I should be taking a nap, or whatever that may be. So I will still be putting up my regular homesteading videos on Saturdays. So I do have a good one coming up tomorrow. It's about woofing and showing some video clips of our woofers while they were here. And I would love to have advice from any of you that is positive. This is not a troll welcome video. I'm not welcoming trolls to this. So if you have something positive and kind to say or a suggestion, I highly, highly welcome it. And there is to be no judging on this video. So if anybody comes on and starts saying mean things about somebody else's parenting skills when they offer advice, I will delete you. Not appropriate. And go check out our other videos. I love all of my braid girls that have come on and been so amazing with me. And if you have ideas for someone you would like me to bring on as a braid girl, go ahead and leave it in the comments, and we'll talk to you later.